Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Country Club Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Leo McMahon. Today, we're honored to have Tony Brooks with us from La Quinta, California. Tony is the founder of the Lion Golf Academy. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you, Leo. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Yeah, glad you came on this morning, or for you tonight. I'm in Thailand. Tony's in California. Uh, Tony, if you could give us a brief background on the Lion Golf Academy.
Yeah, the Lion Golf Academy is an academy that I started after I was working for the PGA Tour and PGA of America. Just continue what they were doing. Unfortunately, the original PGA Tour and PGA of America decided to disband the operation. So I said, let me just run with what they were doing, make some modifications. And it was basically me starting at one facility. My wife is down in San Diego. I had to commute to LA every day, so that was quite a commute, about 2.5 hours each way. Sometimes I'd be sleeping in my car just because it wouldn't make sense to drive back and forth. But I started with one site and one A-frame, just me. And now we're at six locations around Southern California, and we have anywhere from 200 to 300 recurring members every month. We employ anywhere from 5 to 15 PGA members and apprentices across those locations, and we donate a portion of our profits to a sister site in South Africa, where I'm from, for low-income children. So we take profits, we send it to them. They get transportation, range memberships, equipment sent to these children that can't afford much in their life. So they're learning golf, and they're using our Lion Golf Academy curriculum out there too. So that's basically
How did
the
you
the
get how
short
did you
run.
get connected? How did you get connected with South Africa?
That's where I was born. So I was born and raised in Johannesburg. So I
Oh,
came to
okay.
the States in the late 80s when I was 12, and nobody played rugby, cricket, or soccer. So the only sport that I knew from my childhood was golf. So I just kept playing golf. But I keep in contact. Thurlow Hansen is the guy who I met through golf, and he is an ex-firefighter, and he was put out of work through a fire issue that came up. And so he loves golf. He was once a +1 or +2 handicap, and he just decided to do this Heal the Hood Foundation. And they help children through arts, through dance, and through golf. So they actually go to the
Beautiful.
schools, and some of these pictures that he keeps sending me, they have these little plastic greens that they use to hit off of. And they go to these schools, and some of these kids have no shoes. I mean, it's really inspiring to see that these kids have something to look forward to in their life now. And just being a part of that really helps, promote what I think is the game of life first, which is why I call the company the game of life first. To me, that's what golf stands for.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So your academies, you're at five locations. And what do you how do you contact these locations? How does that work?
So you sometimes you have to do a bidding process. Like for the city of San Diego, they put a bid out, and I applied from the bid, and you submit, a 50 to 75 page bid for the project. And then we won that project. There was about 10 or 15 companies that wanted that bid, but they chose us just because of what we represent in the community. Like we're all about getting non-golfers to turn them into golfers. So we don't really care if you play golf now. A golfer is a golfer. So they're going to stay in golf. Even if they vacate it, they'll come back to the game. But what we want to try to do is grow the game. So we reach into the neighborhoods. We try and get non-golfers to turn them into golfers. And we use them and we turn them into loyal patrons of the host facilities. And that's how we kind of separate ourselves from other academies. So for San Diego, we got that 10-year exclusivity contract. For other locations, it could just be going to speak to the GM, approaching the general manager, saying, "Hey, this is what we can do for your operation. We can bring you new golfers. We also help you sell your unused tee times for our on-course classes." Like we speak their language. Like we talk about the money that we can bring them, but also the future, like what we can bring to them in the future. So that's how we kind of separate ourselves. We are launching a licensing program at the end of this year. We have our test market down in Corona right now, where we don't charge any professional a startup fee, nothing. It doesn't cost anything for the pro to adopt a Lion Golf Academy. We provide them with the booking, with the billing, with everything, all the curriculum, um, the two phone applications that come with our academy. It's all free for the members, and they can open up a Lion Golf Academy in their neck of the woods. And all we ask for is a percentage of their sales at the end of the month. So however good they do, that's how good we do. So we're in it for their business. So we're not just an upfront fee, you got to pay all this stuff and invest heavily. We just say, hey, look, we want you to open an academy. We'll help you out. We'll help you run the programming, and you just give us a percentage of the fee at the end of each month.
So when you say you go into the neighborhoods and find non-golfers, how does that work?
So what I do is I look at the area. So we do a census. So we see how many children in the area, how many families, what the average income is. We tailor the program to suit that income. So if somebody, if we go in an area where they can't afford our San Diego prices, we lower the prices where they can afford it because we strictly run group programs. We don't do any private classes. It's all, 4-to-1 ratio. So we can keep that cost down. And then we also, I draw a 5 mile radius on Google Maps, and you can start to look at businesses. So I click all the businesses, all the schools, all the churches, all the hospitals, everything I can think of, and it populates all the businesses. And I go on each one of these and I click them. And when you click them, it gives you their contact info, their website, all that stuff. So then I form an introductory email saying, hey, let's say it's for, Pizza Hut. Hey, this is Tony. I'm at the Lion Golf Academy. We're opening this academy here. Could we have some sort of relationship where we can put a flyer of our academy on every pizza box that leaves here, and in exchange, we'll help whoever is on your staff for free golf lessons. So we do it that way. It's free advertisement. Usually, most of the places we go to, like we know they're not golfers, so we might go to a what do you call that when they CrossFit. So CrossFit is a big community. So we go after communities. So we go to a CrossFit box, they call it, and say, hey, how many of you people play golf? Nobody. Okay, perfect. Let me set up a play day where I come to your box. We teach you how to play golf. We teach you how it relates to CrossFit. We can figure out something with that. And then whoever's interested, now you come to my turf. So we invite you over to my range. We now do it in real action. And we start to convert people that way. So it takes a lot of effort. I think the old mentality is put the A-frame up and they will come. Where the new mentality is, I don't want any advertising at the facility because I don't care about those golfers. They're already golfers. If they're going to come to me, they're going to come to me. My advertisement is on that 5 miles and in. I'm working this way as opposed to most golf pros. They try and work the other way. And I think they just waste their time walking the range because most of those people, hey, if they're not going to come to you, just giving them a 15-minute lesson, they're not going to come to you anyway because you already gave them 15 minutes of your knowledge for free. Why are they going to pay for anything extra? So I say focus your attention on the outside.
That's really, really good. I remember I worked at a facility and we had no local kids in our junior programs. And we went over to the athletic director of the school district, and this guy was more than willing to help us.
Oh, for sure.
And then he connected us with the school administrator. And next thing I know, we're in an auditorium. 600 kids are in this auditorium that want to play golf.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And just by a couple phone calls in one meeting.
Yeah.
And like you're taking it much further. So you obviously you've seen the results of what happens when you reach out a little bit.
Absolutely.
Now, if I'm a non-golfer and you come to my CrossFit facility and I'm interested, now I go to your facility. How does that work? If I'm a golfer looking to learn the game.
So first, I think you have to show them the benefits of the game, which is why you go to their area where they're comfortable. If you take a non-golfer and throw them on the range, they're fish out of water. They're not going to relax themselves. So you go to their area, you introduce the game to them. You try and relate it to what they're interested in, and you clearly know it's CrossFit. So you have to do a little research and figure out. And ChatGPT is great. You just type in, what does golf have to do with CrossFit? It'll spit out a bunch of stuff for you. You memorize that. You go into the CrossFit and you say, hey, this is what it'll do to benefit your CrossFit. Come on over. And you pique their interest. And then you obviously, if you see a person hit a golf ball that's never hit a golf ball, they're hooked. It takes that one shot. So you want to get them on full swings right away. You don't want to bore them and put them on the chipping green and putting green because they'll look at this and go, I can do this on miniature golf. What's the big difference?
Right.
If you give them a wedge and you say, hey, take this short little swing, put it on a tee, just get them to hit it in the air. Man, they get that smile, they get that little glimmer in their eye, and you got them. Okay, now we've got a brand new golfer program. We meet once a week. You can reserve any class you want within 6 days a week. It's 4-to-1 ratio. It's X amount of dollars. We teach you from brand new. We teach you how to hold the grip. We teach you how everything. And we have a phone app now that works in conjunction with the students. So it's gamified a bit where there's 350 skills that they have to complete to go through 12 belt levels. So if you want to just come to meet with your friends, you don't have to do the phone app. But if you want to be a little bit more serious, we have the curriculum laid out for that too.
Great, great. It's interesting that you say you take them to the full swing right away because, I know and you know that I always say, well, start with putting, then chipping, then the pit. But people want to hit the ball.
Right.
So, so I most of the time I used to just go right to the full swing. Let's go have some fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll figure out the rest of the stuff later.
What are the odds if you have 100 people and you give them a 5 foot putt? What are the odds if all of those 100 people make that 5 foot putt? How many would want to continue the game? Versus if you go to the range and you line up 100 people, what are the odds of them continue the game if they just launch that shot? It could be pure luck, but as long as that ball gets up in there and they feel what we felt to connect it to the game, their retention and your conversion is going to be much higher at that level. But
Right,
once they're hooked, now it's like, okay, we also have the short game when we have to,
right, right,
it's
right.
obviously more important as well. But you got to get them in that door.
And you're talking from experience. This is what works for you. It worked for me
Absolutely.
too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Uh, so you said you had all these instructors working for you. So let's say I go to work for you now. Now what happens? I go to one of your facilities. You hired me. How does that work?
So you'll probably shadow somebody for the first 2 weeks, watch them teach classes. And then the next 2 weeks, you'll be teaching your own classes, but either myself or one of my staff will be grading your classes. And we have a whole, spreadsheet based on what the points you should hit. And then you just get a passing score or a failing score. And you can't start teaching until you pass all these curriculum that we set for the instructors. And then we start you off in, the junior classes, adult beginner classes. And then once you've done that long enough at a time, and once you're definitely in the PGA program at that point, then we can siphon some private classes. But most of our private classes are either the current students that are trying to go from the group classes to privates or the occasional walk-in. We don't advertise privates. That's like something that's like a in and out special menu item. We are strictly just 4-to-1 ratio. That's where you make the most money. That's where you keep the cost down for the clients. And if you can get more clients in the door, put it this way, if you have a class with 4 students, if one of those students cancel, you still have a class. But if you have a private student, if that private student cancels, you're watching grass grow for the hour. I'd rather you be out there teaching and making money for all these hours that you're out there working.
Now, why did you pick the 4-to-1 ratio, which I happen to like, by the way? Why did you pick that number?
It just makes the most sense. Most instructors do 6-to-1, 8-to-1, but then, the quality time you get with in each person, it just feels more like a rushed environment. You're bouncing around, especially with children. I mean, if you get 6 kids up there, it's tough. I mean, now it's no longer a class. Now it's like let's just survive. Let's just not get any cuts. But it's amazing when you go from 6 to 4, how that changes the whole group. It's become so much more manageable because you can break them off into teams of 2. You can do 3 versus 1. You can do individual. So our curriculum is always set for that 4-to-1. Now we used to do a 2-to-1 class for a little bit more money, but that failed. So we've tried so many things, and what we have now has been tried and true. It's the stuff that works. So that's why it's great for the next person that wants to get in the licensing program, is we've gone through 8 or 9 years of development. So they don't have to worry about it. We know what works, and we know what works at all facilities. We've been a private club, semi-private, daily fee municipals. So we understand that you change the pricing accordingly, but the group stays the same, that the curriculum survives everywhere you go.
What I liked about the 4-to-1, you can take them out on a golf course together. Now you got 4 buddies playing
There you
together.
go. Yeah.
Uh, so if I'm a brand new instructor there, you're that active. You're going to create. You have all these classes in place for me, and I just got to show up and start teaching.
Yeah, we have at Mission Bay, which is our San Diego site, we're open 6 days a week during the season. Once April kicks in, we'll be open 7 days a week. We have anywhere from 30 to 40 group classes during that week. We also have our junior tour. We have our on-course classes for adults and juniors. We have our ladies league play. We have private classes. We do San Diego City classes. So we're humming. At our weakest site, we're, put it this way, if you come on as as a new site, like a licensing site, you don't have to be a 50-hour week curriculum. You can be a 2-day a week curriculum. It's fine. The program supports it. So, for instance, we have one of our sites is only open 3 days, and they only teach 7 hours a week. Yet that site generates close to $70,000 a year doing that. So, you can see how much potential it is if you run it the right way and if you keep the ratios correct.
So how long of a day is one day in the life of an instructor at one of your academies?
So I'm a huge believer in balance. So most of our shifts are between during the weekdays, 4 to 6 hours, and the weekends. It's rare when you're pushing 8 hours, even in the summer times, just because I know what it's like to teach back to back to back. And by the time you get to that last lesson, that person's not getting the same Tony that the first person got. So I don't want to do that to my instructors or the customers. So, anywhere from 6, maybe 7 hours. But the pay is according. The pay is more per hour to give them that balanced life relationship. And then we also close the 29th, 30th, and 31st of every month. So we always have those 3 days off. All the instructors get 2 days off during the week as well. So I really want that work-life balance because I don't want to burn anybody out.
Yeah, I remember one day I taught 12 hours straight, 7 in the morning till 7 at night.
Ooh, that's rough.
And the last lesson, I didn't even charge the guy. You don't have to pay me. I was shocked. Uh, so these guys or these girls or women, they're able to make a living just doing teaching golf at the Lion Golf Academy.
Yeah, right now we have three full-time three full-time faculty members. And I would say they probably put in the busiest instructor right now probably puts in 25 to 30 hours a week during the season. Plus we do bonuses at the end of the month. So it depends on what your level is. But for our main guys that have been here for a while, obviously they're not making as much as I would like them to make, but obviously neither am I. We're still trying to grow. And the next step that would help us is that licensing program, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the instructors that have been with me the longest and help and move them over to running these facilities. So that's going to be our next step.
So the part-time people, they have other jobs at other facilities, or how does that usually work?
So part-time, we usually only do it during our in-season. So we're talking from spring until October at the latest. And that's when we run our summer camps, and that's where we need part-time help. And these part-timers are just hired on as part-timers. They could be anywhere from 5 hours to 20 hours a week, just depending on what's going on. But in total, we have close to 75 summer camp sessions across all of our sites, and each session is 3 hours. And each one of those now is 6-to-1 ratio for the summer camps. So we're humming from April to October. I mean, it's just, we have guys that say, hey, look, I just have too many hours. Can you give some hours away? Because it does get pretty taxing.
Right. So is there an on-course component to your academy?
Yeah, we have on-course classes that memberships come with on-course classes, and that's the same thing, 4-to-1 ratio. It's about a 90-minute class. We go about 90 minutes before sunset, and that's how we help sell those unused tee times from the golf courses. And in that, we just go over the curriculum and how to adjust it from the range to the golf course. So we'll do, course management. We might do every now and then we'll throw a format at them. If it's 4 people, say, okay, you two versus you two, let's go play a scramble. This is how you play a scramble. This is the point of a scramble to help the pace of play, but also to see what it's like to hit the ball pretty decent because you only get the best
Right.
shots from that point on.
Right.
For our better players, we say, okay, we'll play a worse scramble. So you take the worst ball of these two, and let's see how you get out of the weeds. So we try and keep it entertaining. We don't take ourselves too seriously. We don't take the curriculum too seriously. We try and keep it lighthearted. Most of our guys show up just like I am now. We don't want to, I think the biggest thing too is when you get somebody that's not a golfer and you show up, dressed to the nines, they're going to feel a little intimidated. So I tell my guys, hey man, just relax. If you show up in shorts and a t-shirt, I don't really care because that's our clientele. We got to match them.
Right. 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 Uh, who are people that influenced you in your life?
Ooh, you talking about golf or just anybody?
I would say, let's say golf.
Okay, golf, I would have to say Bobby Locke and Bobby Jones. I'd have to pick those two just because, Bobby Locke got such a bad rap. He was winning so much in the PGA Tour that they found a way to ban him. And so he was
Really?
exiled from the PGA Tour. Yeah, he was a South African golfer. Look him up. It's pretty interesting. They said he would hook every putt, but I don't think that's the case. But he was a lights out putter and he was
That's what
beating
I heard. He
everybody.
was a great putter.
Oh yeah, just beating everybody. So they all got concerned and said, "Hey, we've got to find a way to get rid of Bobby Locke." So they actually met with the big wigs and they found a way to ban him. So he never came to the States. It broke his heart and he moved over, played a lot of European golf, a lot of African golf, but he never came back to the States. And then Bobby
Did he
Jones, obviously, for that
did he
reason.
win any majors? Did Bobby Locke win any majors?
I don't think he did. I don't think he was on the tour long enough to to win majors. They
Right,
got rid of him pretty quickly because he was pretty
right,
much a threat. And then Bobby Jones, just because he was an amateur, to play at that level as an amateur, I think he was one of the last ones to play with love for the game as opposed to money.
right. So let's say in your personal life or your life in general, what three people had the biggest influence on your life?
I would say my parents for sure, and my wife.
Good answer. Good
Yeah.
answer. Now, let's say your father. What's one trait that stands out about your father?
I'd say, his business acumen. I mean, it was very interesting to see him in action and the way he thought about business. He ran a music licensing company for Hollywood, so he would be representing, artists that would like their music and background music, like the NFL, they had the background music. People's Court was part of his deal, and just to hear him negotiate, just to hear him, think about contracts, and it was really cool to be around that all the time. I just go hang out with him in the office. I'd do a little summer job, cleaning CDs at that point, but just to be around that atmosphere, I was just, soaking it all up. And obviously, when I landed my first gig at Riviera Country Club, we were surrounded by people of that same mentality. So I would just pick their brains all day long and just cold ask them, how did you become so rich? And you'd be surprised at how many people answered, I didn't go to high school. I dropped out. I just worked. I outworked everybody. And that opened my eyes too, because I never went to college. And I was thinking to myself, I'm going to be a failure. But just to see how many successful people never went to college, they quit high school because they said, this isn't for me. Already know what I want to do. And they just found a way to get it done. So that part of it also inspired me too.
Interesting. Now, what's one word that would describe your mother?
She was she was very accepting of who I was. I was a very troubled person as a child, because I wasn't so good at school, because my head was in the clouds all the time. In South Africa, it wasn't, you know, you were disciplined at school. It wasn't, like today. I mean, you were caned at school. You were getting up at front and hit
Wow.
with the hands of rules. I mean, it was discipline. So I would always find my way in the principal's office, getting caned and sent home. But my mom says, hey, you know what? You are just who you are, and it's okay to be like that. So she was very accepting of who I was, and she was like the first person I would call when I didn't align with everybody because she understood me. Now she
Right.
passed away about 5 or 6 years ago, so that part of it was lost. But my wife is the next one in line. I mean, she's obviously with me for a reason. She accepts me for who I am, so it's definitely a positive to have.
Yeah. What a great trait to pass on, though, because it's important. You just accept people. As long as they're not hurting me and they're not hurting you. Accept them.
That's right, yeah.
So, what's the one word that would describe your wife?
Disciplined.
Yeah.
That's a good word, I think. No, definitely loving. I mean, she's very sweet. The same thing, as my mother, very accepting and accepting to a point with me. I mean, I think she saw my potential and she helped, guide me to that potential. And I'm not there yet, but just to be around that type of mentality, to see your potential when you don't even see it, and to be, holding you accountable for your actions, both positive and negative, was really something that I never had anybody do. In other
That's
words,
pretty cool.
she didn't put up with anything from me. That's a nice way of
Right.
saying that, but it really forced me to look at myself and to really analyze, how I'm affecting other people, even if I don't mean it. So it really made me internalize a lot more.
Yeah, what I'm hearing there is you're telling me you want to go here, but your actions aren't showing it, and I'm going to hold you accountable to getting where you want to go, right?
That's
That's
exactly it.
pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it is
That's pretty
exactly it.
cool. Uh, see here, what else do I have that I wanted to ask you? Where do you see your company in 10 years?
Oh man, if it was up to me, I would have already taken a step back and watched the next generation take over. I've always had a vision of seeing this a multinational company and hopefully with this licensing program to help professionals in need of a job that were in my shoes at some point in time where they're not happy with their life. They found themselves in a position where they're just not happy. This is a way out. This is a way to open up your own business, cost nothing. And if we can get, a few dozen of those next year, and then that turns into 20 or 30 the year after, and eventually hundreds across the country and across the world. That's where I envision it. And at that point, hopefully, I can take a step back and let the next generation just take it to the next level where I can't see it can go.
What's on your agenda for this week? What do you have to get accomplished this week?
Well, my days are 10 to 12-hour days as is. I don't really have a day off. I have so many projects going on. I'm outfitting a new location we're opening in Palm Desert. I also have my YouTube channel. I do videos for every day. I go to my San Diego sites, my Pomona sites. I take care of my business. So I don't really have much going on other than business and trying to juggle the family. Family, we're going to do some stuff, obviously, just to keep that connection going. But I don't have much plans. I'm a day-to-day guy. Whatever I have on schedule that day, if I don't get it done, it goes to the next day.
So your day's wrapped up now. You're in California. Your day's wrapped up. What would make tomorrow great?
I would say just unwinding and getting a decent night's sleep. I can't really sleep anymore. I'm like a vampire. So I'll be lucky to sleep by 2 or 3 in the morning and then be up whenever I can. But I guess to just to unwind, I think just unwinding time is important for me. But some days I just can't unwind just because I got so much
So
going on.
tomorrow's the day. Is tomorrow a day off?
No, typically I try and reserve a couple of days off for the family. The good thing is I work from home, so I'm always around them. So at least I can go have lunch with them and be around them. But usually, I think in the last year I might have taken 5 or 6 days off. And 2 or 3 of those is when I take my staff up at the yearly end. I take them on vacation somewhere. We go for 3, 4 days. We went to Phoenix this year, so that was part of my day off. But it was my day off
Very
because I was
nice.
still sitting there on the work phone and doing so it's hard for me to pull myself away. And I think that's my next challenge is to give myself some time off and just stay committed to that.
Uh, what are you grateful for?
Oh, I'm grateful for life. I'm grateful for everything. You take a step back and you realize how fortunate we are specifically to be in America, where you can take a kid like me who grew up 10,000 miles away, dreaming of this place, of the freedom it has, and I'm here, and I'm just a walking example of what you can do just with hard work, no education. And I run a multiple facility company just because of hard work. And I don't think there might be a few countries out there that you can do this in, but I'm grateful that I'm here taking advantage of what this country has. And it's very frustrating to hear people talk so down about it, but it's usually the people that haven't lived anywhere else that can't see what they actually have in front of them. So that's what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for the sacrifices that my parents made to put me here.
You know what? As much as I love Thailand, I live in Thailand, and I love Thailand, and the people are great. If you come to Thailand without any money, you basically have no shot.
Right.
Uh, unless you're working, unless you're working with a big international corporation, because they don't want foreigners owning businesses or taking jobs from their local citizens.
Right. Yep.
Which they have a point. But in America, you can come from anywhere and start it up and let's go.
Yeah. I was reading a statistic. It's really interesting. And I don't remember the exact number. It was staggering. It was in the 90% area that 90% of small businesses are started from people that have moved to America. So it just shows you that this is the land that you can do it in, and people do come here to open their dream. But it's also alarming to me that, how come you get these people that are born and raised here only starting 10% of these small businesses? What are they being told? I don't know if they've been told that this is the land to do it in, or if they just, because they've been here so long, they just think that, hey, the right thing to do is to go to school, get a corporate job, go into debt, and save for my retirement. You've got to put money on yourself and go out there.
My personal opinion, I don't have any facts to back it up, but Thai people, it's almost they look at work as therapy.
Mm,
They work all day long and it doesn't phase them in the least,
hmm.
because I think maybe they could, if they weren't working, they'd be doing something that wasn't productive or
Right.
they'd be in trouble. So
That's
this
right.
keeps me out but like the vendors here, they'll just work all day long. Like it's, hey, how's it going?
Yeah. 15 hours later, still
Yeah,
still smiling.
exactly. Exactly. Uh, let me see here. I'm out of questions. So let's talk about the PGA a little bit, even though we said we weren't going to talk about them.
Oh, we can't not talk about it.
So you were telling me before we went on, and I hit the record button, that you worked for the PGA of America. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I was hired along with four other individuals to start the PJ Learning Centers, and it was the first time in, I believe, in history, or one of the first times in a long time, that the PGA Tour and the PGA of America joined forces to open up this game development program. So basically starting new golfers, kind of what I'm doing now. And we were promised, I shouldn't say promised, but we were worded that, hey, this is going to be a long-term development to see if we can take it to multiple facilities. And we were in year two, and at this point, I believe we're up to 11 sites. So they just brought on six new instructors, six new directors of instruction, and we were growing it. Some sites were not doing as well as others, just as probably would be normal. And then out of nowhere, we just get this notification saying, "Hey, sorry to let you know, but the PGA of America, PGA Tour are pulling out. Like we just don't feel like this is something worth our time, worth our investment." And it really blew me away because you look at how much money each of those organizations have in their bank, and this is for growth of the game, something that they both advertise that say they help companies with growth of the game. Here they're both doing it, and now they're turning their back on it. So what does that really say about their ideas of growth of the game? Is it all just fluff? Because here we were trying to do what they wanted us to do, and they pulled out. They saw that they might not have been. Now there could be something deeper than that they didn't let us know, but unfortunately they just said, "Hey, you're on your own." We did get some severance pay to help us out. And then from that point on, I just decided, hey, I can't get a job. Let me just continue what they were doing. So I modified it a little bit, started with my own facility, one stall on me, and just worked every single day as much as I could, networked as much as I could, and just slowly built it up to where it is now.
Beautiful. And then you said there was another experience you had with them where they weren't there for you.
Yeah, so that was the second time. The first time I was let go was in 2004. It was a corporate takeover, and they just let a few of us go. And both times, I didn't hear from any career consultants. I didn't hear from anybody, lending their hand from sectional or national. And it really kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And that's where I started to develop a little chip on my shoulder about that. But just because of my experience so far has been not very consoling. Now, I'm sure there's other professionals out there who's had a grand old time and everything they've worked for has come to fruition through the PGA of America. So this is from the other side. And it's very frustrating because I also share this opinion with a lot of PGA members around the country who aren't in the position to voice that opinion out of fear of retribution from other people. And it's a shame if you've seen this from your post. As soon as you put something up, you're already automatically labeled as somebody. Like it's not like, hey, this is what Leo says. Let me just read into this and this is valid points. Let me address these, you know, to make you feel better, or at least let's sit down on the table and address these. But it's more like, hey, Leo, you're crazy for thinking like this. They paint you in a corner where all of a sudden it's you against the whole boys, and it's very
Right.
frustrating.
So what you just said, I think, makes a lot of sense. And if they're listening, they could learn from this. When you were let go by that corporate takeover, a career consultant should have reached out with you. Tony, let's sit down and have a meeting. I know you're in a bad spot right now. Let's sit down and meet for an hour and come up with a plan to get you moving forward again. In almost every case, you don't hear from those guys. If you lose a job, you're on your own,
Right.
start swimming,
Yeah, so I would think the very least they would do is populate a report. And I'm sure you can figure this out, where you are assigned to. So everybody has a designated club that they're assigned to. And I'm sure there must be a report that says, hey, these members are not assigned to anybody. Let me find out why. Why aren't they assigned to anybody? Is it because you're retired? Is it because you're taking off from the game of golf? Or is it because you don't have a job at the moment? And just to reach out, even if it's a mass email, just to say that, hey, you're on our radar. You're not associating with anybody. Is there a way I can help you? Can I help you work in your resume? Can I help you get in with this group? Or, just something to say, hey, we've got you. You're part of us and let's just help you.
Right.
But
Right.
there,
Good
there wasn't
point.
even anything like that.
Good point. Good point. Uh, yeah, I don't want to get too far into that because I want to have a good day today. But is there anything else you don't want to talk about, Tony? You
I
know what?
just
Talk about the golf ball rollback. I'll give you my opinion. You can give me yours.
go for it.
I retired in 2023, April 2023, and the club I worked at, we had just finished up a $6 million golf course renovation. And one of the main reasons for the renovation was our golf course was too short. Our
Hmm.
driving range was too short. We had to expand the holes, expand the driving range, and we had to spend $6 million to renovate the place so people wouldn't knock it out of the park, basically. Uh, so I'm on the school. I want a limited flight golf ball because sooner or later they're going to run out of real estate if you just can't have every year the ball going further and further.
Right.
It doesn't make sense. And if you want to get close to the green, move up to a closer tee, a upfront tee. You shouldn't
Yeah.
have to rely on your equipment to get closer to the green. Uh, so from an economic standpoint, play a forward tee.
Hmm.
That's my opinion anyway. So what's yours?
Yeah, I mean, you bring up valid points. If you look at the length that people are hitting it now, it's I think the professional athletes are going to hit it far regardless. So it's not really going to make an effect on them as much as the amateurs. And if you look at the way the equipment has evolved, it's only benefiting the average golfer more than the big boys. The coefficient of restitution of the club face, the club shafts have made it easier to hit the golf ball. Obviously, the golf ball covering and the way they design the dimples is definitely increasing distance. And you see, Jack Nicklaus made a comment when he was in his 60s saying, I hit the ball further now than I did when I was in my 30s. And that's ridiculous. And I'm in the
Right,
same boat too. I'm hitting the ball further now than I did 20 years ago. That shouldn't make any sense. So
right,
yeah, and you're running into these golf courses, specifically on the East Coast, where a lot of these golf courses, private clubs, are built turn of the century, right when golf is
right,
migrating through that area. They were designed for golf balls going a specific length. And all of a sudden, you've
right.
taken the design element out of that golf course. So you're taking the teeth right out of it. So I can see certain situations where you would want to limit the flights, but then you'd also see the other side of it when you're dealing with people that play recreationally. Are we taken away from their enjoyment of the game by making them hit it shorter? And will that help the growth of the game? So I see it from two different angles. I see it can play a part positively, and I can also see it plays a part negatively. So I'm still up in the air about this. I always go back and forth in my mind. The traditionalist in me says, bring them back. I mean, you know, feel what we were feeling 40 years ago when not everybody was
Right.
hitting at 300. But the growth of the game in me says, okay, maybe we need to just let them hit it further because they enjoy the game more.
Now, the PGA of America is against limiting the ball flight. Now, as far as I know, did they poll you to ask you your opinion?
Never heard of Peep.
So it would be so easy for them to send out a survey to 32,000 PGA members. What do you think?
Right.
And if they did it electronically, they could have it back in minutes.
Right.
Uh, but yet they've already formed a stand on where they are in this topic,
Hmm.
and they're going against the USGA and the R&A, and they're going against my opinion. I'm not a PGA member anymore, but they're going against my opinion on what should happen because it's an expensive proposition for clubs. We had to turn a 250-yard driving range into a 375-yard
For
driving
sure.
range.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't
It,
cheap.
it, it is a shame where you see great old classic clubs just lose all their luster because people hit it too far.
Right. Uh, I can't think of anything else I want to ask you, Tony.
Yeah, no worries. You got a full day ahead of you. I'm just winding up.
So, how many do you have any lessons scheduled for tomorrow?
No, tomorrow I'm actually visiting that indoor facility. We're going to take some measurements. We're going to install a flight scope datametric launch monitor, do all that stuff, and get the putting green laid out. So tomorrow my day is full of setting up a facility. Um, Teaching wise, we're obviously going to pick up teaching again once that facility is back open. But right now I'm getting ready for summer. I'm already planning the schedules, getting people hired up. We got the San Diego City program running, so that's my busy time, just getting the system ready for 2 months down the road.
So, Southern California, the weather is more conducive to golf in the summertime than the wintertime.
Depending, yes. Obviously, in the desert here, you don't want to be anywhere near this place in the summertime unless you like sitting on a rock and and looking at snakes because it's brutal out here. But we run in the desert. We go from November to about April, so we still get a good 6 months in there. But now San Diego sites, they're just fluid. They're running all year round. It's just perfect weather. It's like the mecca of golf down there for the weather.
So, what what business skills did you have, or this you're learning on the fly? Is that what it is, basically?
Basically, what self-education, that's the way I do it. I'm so thankful I have the internet at my disposal. If I had to do this before the internet, it would not happen. You definitely need some sort of degree and exposure to that. But yeah, from the moment I opened shop, I learned how to incorporate. I learned how to file taxes. I learned how to do payroll. I learned how to do advertising, marketing, do my own flyer. I mean, it's just constant evolution. So I look back now, I'm like, man, how did this like happen? I'm looking at everything, running the websites, creating the apps. I learned how to program a phone app, so I had to go in there and learn all this coding,
Wow.
and it's all done through internet. It's like, how do I do this? And you watch it and you just do it and trial and error. And obviously, some errors cost more money than others, but it's the cost of doing business.
So it sounds like you're a pretty common story. You follow a pretty common path. You were a one-man band for a while.
Yes.
Uh, and now are you at the point where you can hire a marketing person to help you?
No, I'm still, because I've done it all myself, it's pretty cookie cutter now. Like I've got everything set up where, hey, we have a new site. Here you go. Here's your opening kit. Here's all the marketing material you have. It's all done. So there's no real purpose to hire somebody to do what I've already done. I've done the SEO stuff. I've got all the listings going. So I've done a pretty good job of investing in advertising that's already taken care of itself to this day. Being ranked X amount on Google, being ranked on search engines with voice. That's a new thing that came out a couple of years ago. So I addressed that. Obviously I can't do it all, so I had to hire a company to do that for me. So if anybody, it's really interesting is if somebody's in your area and they say golf lessons, it'll populate and say Lang Golf Academy. So it depends on where you are on the GPS reception. So all that stuff is way above my ability. So there are some things that I still have to go and seek assistance for, but most of it's just figuring out how to do it and just do it.
Now, as far as accounting goes, who monitors all your money coming in and money going out?
Right here. It's like the accounting degree came in. The school of life came in at this point. I mean, everything is just done through me. So we got QuickBooks up there. We go in and out. We got different accounts. So all this is just, you've got to do it. There's nobody to do it. You got to learn how to do it and just educate yourself. So that's why I have these late nights where I'm just, family's asleep. I come and listen to, stuff on videos. YouTube's been a big help for me to, watch how people do stuff. Just internet has just been such a saving grace for me, and I've been able to take advantage of it.
Now, the 5 sites, do you have managers at each site or do you manage each site yourself?
So about 2.5 years ago, we switched around. So now it's just done through one facility, which is me. Before we had managers at each location, it got to the point where each location wasn't universal with each other. So it got to the point, let's say somebody from Pomona drove down to San Diego and wanted to take a lesson through their membership at San Diego. They wouldn't have the same experience. It wasn't the same class style. And it's no fault to anybody. It's just the way it evolved. So I said, that's not what we're really after. Like, we want to be able to be in a position where if somebody from Pomona goes to San Diego or vice versa, they might get a new instructor, but they get the same layout, they get the same feel. The pricing structure is the same. Everything needs to be more like the same, and we have one hub. So we pulled things in. I'm the hub now, and I go and oversee all the other hubs. And I go out there once a week or so just to check in with them, ask them any questions, watch them teach lessons, grade their lessons if they need improvement on one thing. And I don't care about your style. You can be the quietest person, the happiest person. But it's more like, are you hitting these 3 or 4 things in the class structure? And are you doing it to facilitate what we're advertising? Because if you're advertising something and they go to the location and they don't get anything you're advertising, there's a big miscommunication. And that affects your retention, that affects your growth.
So you mentioned 4 full-time employees. Do they work at different facilities or are they all at one facility?
Correct. So they basically are the main instructor for those facilities. So
Okay.
once their book fills up, that's when we get the part-time in there. So ideally, at let's say San Diego, we have enough business where we would like to have 3 or 4 full-time instructors. The only issue with San Diego is even though the weather's perfect, there are stretches where it gets too cold. We lost the lights at the golf course, and they can't replace it because it cost $1 million to replace the whole lights in the driving range and the golf course. So they put that on hold. So we've lost, from sunset all the way till 10 o'clock at night, we've lost that teaching
Wow.
time. So it's
Wow.
really affected our growth, but we're doing a great job. We've got it down. We've gone through 5 seasons there now where we know when to pull back, when to hire, when to put the advertising dollars in there, when to pull it out. So that's just from experience. And that's, just you have to do it. You have to go through it a couple times.
Now, do you meet with those lead instructors individually, as a team, weekly, daily? How does that work?
Yeah, so we call as much as we can, we text as much as we can. We've got it down where, the whole point of me overtaking everybody is so all they do is show up and teach. They don't have to worry about book work, booking, anything. All that stuff is through me. So if anybody has questions about billing, questions about scheduling, they contact me at the home office. I take care of everything for them. They just show up and follow their schedule and teach. I still go down there, try and go down there once a week to see them, to shake their hand, to watch them teach. We try and meet once every other month to go play golf somewhere. And then at the end of the year, we take that trip where it's 3 or 4 days. We all go and just play golf and have a good time. So we try and keep in communication, but it's not like I'm there all the time overseeing
Right,
them. I trust all of them.
right. So let's say you add another 5 facilities. Can you still follow this model or are you going to need some people to lean on a little more?
So the good thing now is we're done with corporate stores. Like we're not opening any more corporate facilities. Now it's just licensing. So all payroll
Okay,
is going to be on the
okay.
pro. So let's say you're the pro, you want to open a licensing facility. Here's all your stuff. Go open your academy. I'll help you set the schedule up. You'll be in our system. You'll be in our advertisement, our website. All that stuff's going to come with that program. You set your schedule. You just teach. So you're in charge of your schedule. We signed up the clients for you. They're able to reserve into your schedule. It's a self-feeding system. So you don't really have to do anything. You just tell the system when you're available to teach, and the students will start to populate, and they'll just show up and you teach them. And you can be as busy as you want, or you can be as empty as you want. It's up to you. Doesn't cost you anything. Doesn't really cost us anything.
So the reason I'm asking you all these questions, I'm writing a book,
Okay.
and the book is about running a business,
Yeah.
and specifically a golf business or a golf-related business. And it there's a guy named Major Playfair who basically turned around the city or the town of St. Andrews in Scotland. He was a military guy. He retired in St. Andrews, Scotland, and the town was a dump. The golf course was a dump, and the university was falling apart. And he became mayor of St. Andrews and turned the town around, paved the roads. They didn't have paved roads, animals were crapping all over the roads. He paved the roads. He turned the golf course around. He hired the first golf pro, Alan Robertson, and they turned around the old course. They made improvements there. They built the Royal and Ancient Clubhouse, and they turned the university around. And they even had they never had a train line to St. Andrews. He created a train line to St. Andrews. And he had this vision of St. Andrews, even in that time, the 1840s, he had the vision of St. Andrews being the home of golf.
Yeah.
And his vision came true, it's unbelievable. And
yeah, it's amazing.
Just as one guy who had a vision, hired good people, and it became a reality.
Yeah,
So
you hear that. Sorry, you hear that with like Walt Disney for a good example. He had that vision. I want this place to be
right,
Disneyland, and he had to go and procure all this money, and he was bankrupt a bunch of times, but he made it work. And it's just that vision.
So from my experience, from what I can see, great companies, and you have a company, they need a visionary, somebody who can look out 10, 20, 30 years. Ideally, this is what it's going to look like, ideally,
Yeah.
And then every company needs somebody who's going to make sure the trains run on time, make sure the lessons get booked, make sure all the daily business is taken care of. So you need a visionary and a business person or a conductor of a train.
Right.
And right now you're wearing all the hats right now, because that's where you're at. But I think it would probably make your wife feel a lot better if you could start delegating some of this stuff out. But right now you probably can't because you're too small right now,
I know, yeah. And we actually we were facing closure twice. It hasn't been roses all the time.
Right.
COVID hit us hard because we're actually in 2 locations in Florida at that point. And Florida just said, hey, we can't do this because of COVID. We were expanding it to Texas. So we were rocking and rolling in 2019 to 2020. I mean, we were up to 7 or 8 sites at that point. And then COVID hit, we had to pull everybody, we had to furlough everybody, had to, find a way to make it work. And then we found a way. And then again, we were almost faced with closure in 2022, 2023. So we built ourselves back up again. But every time we face closure, it's like, okay, well, what happened? And how can we adjust it so it doesn't happen? How can we streamline things differently? Where's our money going? Where should we be putting it into? We were putting a lot of money into advertising where the return on investment wasn't as high as it should have been. So we just pulled advertising off for a year and used, the current students we have to ask them, hey, let's get a referral program up here. And it cost us nothing. And we took care of the students. And I think the biggest issue with us was retention. And I think we might have been growing too fast where we started to lose control of the experience. And we saw we were getting plenty of students, but we just couldn't hang on to them. So I said, well, why aren't we hanging on to them? There's no real structure in the curriculum. Okay, so let's create this phone app that's gamified, that has 350 skills over 12 levels, that in between classes, our students can go and practice these skills. Once they complete it, they get XP points. They fall on the leaderboard. Now we take the top students of the leaderboard and invite them to different events. And that helped our retention. So it's always just looking at, okay, what's failing? Let's get rid of that and let's turn that failure into a positive to help the ship grow. And knock on wood, right now we're doing okay. Like we're back on the good side, barring any crazy flu that's going to come out or something. We're still doing okay. So just gotta wait.
You reminded me a little of this guy Danny Meyer. Danny Meyer is one of the top restaurateurs in the world, and his dream was to open a 5-star Michelin restaurant.
Yeah.
And he did that in New York City. He opened one, and he very successful, right? So he says, well, I'm going to open another one. So now he opens one 5 blocks away from where his first one was. And like you're saying, he wants it. He wants perfection at both restaurants.
Yeah.
He's running one. He's not running the other one. So now he's literally running up and down the street,
Right.
making sure that both restaurants are running the way he wants them to run.
Right.
And he couldn't do it. It's just impossible. So now the guy has, I think he has 10 of the top 20 restaurants in Manhattan, New York City. And he was the founder of Shake Shack,
Okay.
which is an international
Yeah.
food restaurant company. But he learned how to delegate, how to franchise his business, and but he demands that personal touch. He's known for his he knows hospitality inside and out. He knows how to take care of you, basically.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but that's what you remind me of a little bit. You got it all going on, and I'm looking at it from afar. But man, he's got a tough job.
You're right, yeah. Bouncing around. And that's where I think that next, the most recent change was like, okay, what makes more sense is I'm in the main hub and I can control things a little bit easier from this main hub. I'm not out there grinding on the range and I get home and I got 10 missed
Right,
calls and 50 emails of these people that are
right,
waiting to. Now at least I'm more accessible. I can
right,
take care of them right away. I can bounce around to any facility if needs to cover. Let's say I need to
right,
cover San Diego. Okay, I'll be down there. I'll drive down there and cover it. So it's a little bit easier for me to move around instead of me being at a site, have all these other people at the sites,
right.
and me thinking that's the same way we're running here. But then you turn around and see it's like, man, this is like there's no quality in this place. There's no control. There's no checks. So just by instilling that quality check, like we've seen so much retention now. And students are staying longer, and that's how you grow. You can't keep losing students and inheriting students. They don't just fill each other. You've got to just grow by keeping students. And if we can keep our students 2 months longer, that's great. We can grow more.
Right. Do you keep track of the handicaps and see, or do your students even have handicaps at this point?
No, we're strictly juniors. We do about 75% juniors from 2 years old all the way to 15 or 16. And our adults are brand new golfers. I mean, we very rarely get people in that have played this game for a long time. If they do, they might take a private lesson every now and then, but we're just strictly, hey, I've never hit the golf ball. I don't even know which end of the club to hold. We're that type of student. So that's the type we want because that we're the first people that they trust, and it's a lot easier if they have a good time with us. They create friendships. There's a community down there. They feel like they're a part of the community. And it's very hard to lose those students. Even if they go away for a couple of months, they're back because they like what we've created for them. And that's, I think, what, In-N-Out does, Starbucks does, Apple does. They create this need to belong and they give you certain things. Like you go to In-N-Out, if you want a special hamburger that only you know, it's called the animal style. But shh, don't tell anybody because that's the secret I'm telling you. So now they feel like I belong to this. This is my cult. I can go there and order the secret menu. So it's not like we're giving secret menus to our students, but we want to emulate that style where they feel like we're a part of the community. So we invite them to so many places. We invite them to special days. We go out and play with our students. Like we want them to be a part of the family. If I hear of a student going through hard times, I call them up, say, hey, look, I know your family's going through hard times. I'm not going to charge you for the next 2 months. I don't want to lose you. Come for free golf and just enjoy yourself. I want to take that burden away from you. But that little act, man, that resonates with them. They're going to be ours forever because we recognize they're going through issues. We were the ones that reached out to them, say, I'm going to do this for you because I know it's the right thing to do. And now they're going to go and tell all their friends, hey, man, you got to go to this facility because they treat people right. We're not just a number that's a dollar figure. They actually care about us. Like, so we try and walk and talk at the same time. We don't just bark and say we're going to do stuff and then back out.
Yeah, and I'm speaking from my experience. I don't know if anybody else's, but I love teaching beginners and kids. It was so much fun
Oh
teaching them,
yeah. Oh yeah.
as opposed to the 15 handicap who's slicing it today, who takes
Right.
the game really serious.
Right. But doesn't have like the dedication to get better, right? They just think they're going to pay you
Right,
60
right.
minutes, you're going to give them
Fix
a
me.
magic pill and they're going to be fixed. But you know, the thing is about it too is a lot of the golf instructors don't want to teach the kids and don't want to teach beginners. They just
Oh,
don't.
it was the most fun. It
It's
was
like that's the
great.
one you want to go after.
Right, right. I missed that part of golf instruction.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh, the other thing that's impressing me, you're giving 10% to South Africa for low income kids. That's pretty impressive. And you're talking about community. So let's say I'm an adult. I join your one of your facilities. You teach me the game. How am I becoming part of your community? Explain that a little further.
So I'll give you a good example. I had Charlie, one of my students down in San Diego, was a struggling golfer, probably started the game 6 months to a year, wasn't a very good golfer. So I said, come on, join our class. The first class that gets in there, I knew Charlie likes to go and ski. I also know that this other student who's in a part of the class also liked to ski. So I said, Charlie, here's the student, love to ski. Why don't you guys get together, go up the mountain, go and ski together? You can talk about golf and go ski at the same time. Next thing you know, they're planning ski trips together. They've formed this relationship that they would not have formed outside of Line Golf Academy. So that's
Right.
what I mean by creating the community, because now whenever I invite Charlie to come to a class and I'm down in San Diego, guess who's joining? That same friend that he made. So that's the community we want to try and do. And we do this for all the kids. You know, if a kid is having a hard time, I ask one of the other students, hey, go over and talk to Jimmy. You know, you can see he's having a hard time. Why don't you go and tell him a joke or something? So we get them to go and help each other out. And we, you know, if there's somebody's acting out in a class, you know, hey, how do you think this affects all of us? It doesn't just affect you. You're making us look bad. So you're part of us. You're not just you. So we really try and bring that, you know, accountability, kind
So
of kind of what my wife
so
does to
let's
me.
say so let's say I'm an adult. You teach me how to play golf. Am I going to be part of your community 5 years from now? How does that work?
Absolutely. Oh yeah. And you'll be amazed. I have students that still keep in touch with me that moved across the country, that if they find themselves in San Diego, they come and at least take a class. I keep in contact with so many students. Some students that I taught 15, 20 years ago that now have children of their own are reaching out to me. So, you know, and it's not something I do with a purpose. I don't sit there and have an email database and saying, hey, I haven't reached out to these people in 6 months. Let me just make sure I reach out to them. It's just something that I've done throughout my career is to make sure that it's people, you know, because we're not in the game of golf. Like we're in the game of people. And if you teach people how to play golf, it's a lot different than teaching golf to people. Like the people comes first, the golf comes second.
So the adults that you teach that are new to the game, 5 years they'll come back for refresher courses or refresher class.
Yeah, for sure. I
Okay.
have somebody in Palm Desert that I met on the range. I found his wedge. I was doing a playing lesson. He's Charlie's his name. He's from Alaska. So he comes by and he goes, "Hey, did anybody find this butt ugly wedge?" And it's a really ugly wedge. It's from like the 60s. And I go, "Here you go." He goes, "This is Mr. Ugly." So he ends up getting my contact information. I ended up teaching him the whole season that year. He goes back to Alaska. He sends me a message saying, "Hey, I'm coming down next season. I want to make sure I'm with you again." So we do it again. It turns out his life takes a little turn. He ends up getting engaged, ends up getting married. His life has moved on. He still purposely makes time to come down in February and March just to see me. Other than that, he has no interest in being in La Quinta. He has no other ties. So that
Right.
relationship we formed, now he feels obligated. And I told Charlie, I said, hey, don't come just for me. He goes, no, the reason I'm coming is just for you. So, and it's more of a friend. We've invited him to our house. He's taught us how to do smoked salmon the Alaskan way. And I treat everybody like that, not just Charlie. Like I want all my students to know that I'm reachable. I can talk to them like a friend if they need to. It's like much like a bartender.
Right. 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 Interesting. Yeah, you just reminded me of my high school golf coach. He was a math teacher in high school, and he would stand at the door before every class and look every student in the eye and shake their hand, say good
Hmm.
morning.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the class, he'd stand by the door and shake every student's hand, have a good day.
Yeah,
Because
for
he
sure.
wanted to make that connection with him. He didn't think of himself as a teacher. He thought of himself as a good guy helping kids out, basically, you
Right.
know?
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, the first thing I try and do is when let's say I have a brand new junior in the class, the first thing I want to know is when's their birthday, what's their favorite thing to do outside of golf, and do they like movies? Like that's I just try and get them to talk, and I remember that. So a week goes by, hey, did you see that new movie that just came out? Or "Hey, I know you like to play Roblox. What you guys do this week in Roblox?" So he remembers, man, coach remembers what I like, and all of a sudden we've got a connection, and we always just go on that connection. So it gives a feeling of worthiness to him, and he wants to look forward to coming to coach's class because we've made that connection. So just something simple like that can really help your business grow and also
And
create,
help,
better
and it
relationship.
helps the kid out too. Helps the kid
Absolutely.
out too.
Yeah.
So now I'm jealous, Tony. I wish I was back teaching again. You're having
Hey,
all this fun.
we got a licensing program. You can start one over there.
You know what? Thailand is weird. Uh, the cost of living is really low in Thailand.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, I live 100 yards from the ocean,
Oh wow.
$350 a month.
Oh man.
It's a beautiful place. Uh, but golf is expensive.
It's expensive, yeah.
Everything else is cheap, but golf is is basically American prices over here.
Right, right.
And I see all these kids, and even if I help them with golf, they don't have the money to play these golf
Right.
courses. It's just too much money.
Yeah.
Uh, some of the ranges are pretty active. They have some kids, but I'm thinking these kids must be from wealthy families because how are they getting on the golf course?
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought about that, but I don't think it would work. As much as I like to teach kids, I don't. There would be no place for them to play.
Yeah, and that's some of the internal struggles I face when we do send funding to those kids in South Africa. It's like, the other side of the coin is like, are we really doing them a favor? Because they're gonna fall in love with this game. And
Right.
unfortunately, when they do fall in love and they have to go and pay for green fees when they get older, they won't be able to afford it. So am I setting them up for a heartbreak, or am I still giving them the lessons that God can teach them about life? So it's always this constant battle in my mind. Yes, it's the right thing to do. It feels good, but in the long term, how good is it? Is it going to be? It's going to set them up for heartbreak, and that's why I think it still needs to be a lot of attention needs to be giving this game an avenue for people that really can't afford it to still go and enjoy the life lessons, because it's not fair that somebody that comes from money gets access to this. And included in the game is so many life lessons that are passed down through generations. And now you have a child that can't afford it is going to miss out on those life lessons. And that's really sad for me.
You know what? I'm just thinking golf courses don't have to be manicured for golf to be fun.
Right. Yeah.
If I were king, you could mow a fairway and you could have a green, let's say, or a hole the size of a small apartment, a small studio apartment.
Yeah.
That would be the hole. You knock
Yeah.
it into that area, you hold out.
Right.
You don't have to have a putting green. Just hit the ball a few times and knock it into this one large area, and you've completed the hole.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't cost a lot to do something like that. And you
I,
still basically have the game of golf. And I think when it was first invented in Holland, the Netherlands, they played to doors. The door of the church, the door of the school, the door of the police, and they would have four holes, and the first person to hit the door in the least amount of strokes won that hole.
yeah.
There was no putting or anything involved. Just hit the ball to a location, and whoever did it in the fewest amount of strokes won the hole.
Yeah. Or probably get a free pint or something by the
Well,
pub, right?
that was probably the final hole. Hit
Right.
the barroom door.
Yeah.
Yeah, but sometimes I think I haven't been there, but I think in Scotland or yeah, in Australia, they're not real big on course maintenance. They're big on low fees and getting out and playing the stupid game. Not
Yeah.
all the manicured and all the stuff that goes with it in the United States.
Yeah. And I approached Cleveland, Callaway, Titleist, all the big dogs. I say, hey, look, how about we start this adoption program where you adopt children and pay for their tee times, pay for their range balls. It wouldn't cost you much. and we can get like an adoption deal where they have to submit the right paperwork to make sure that they're qualified for this. But it makes your job look great and your company look great because now you're sponsoring true growth of the game. You're helping children out that can't afford this game by paying for their green fees. We can figure out how many times they can do it a month, and we'll teach them classes. We'll run it through the academy, and all of them said, "Hey, that sounds great. However, it just doesn't match our bottom line at this point." I'm thinking, man, this is just so frustrating to hear that there's these giants of the game that have the capabilities to help so many students, and it doesn't cost them much. I mean, how much is their advertising budget a year? Just advertising alone, you take a portion of that, and how much advertising can you do from that you're doing? You just run a quick little video of how you're helping the game of golf, and you throw that up there. That's going to outweigh so much more advertisement anyway. So people want to support programs that help kids. So that's one way to get your money
Right.
back. And it fell on deaf ears, and it's like you run into those programs so many times. So, unfortunately, you got little guys like me out there trying to do this without the pocketbook, but have the vision to help these kids, and you're running into this issue. You got so many good-hearted people that just don't have the money.
Now, you just reminded me, do you know a woman named Pratima Sherpa?
No, I do not.
Wow, okay. Now she's from the Southern California area, I believe, and I interviewed her. They did an ESPN documentary on her.
Hmm.
She's from Nepal,
Okay.
okay? She lived in a dirt floor maintenance shed. Her mother, and her father on the golf course. Her father makes her a golf club out of a stick.
Hmm.
She starts playing golf with a stick on the Royal Nepal Golf Club. And the members see her, they give her a golf club. Now she starts hitting balls with a golf club. And she gets pretty good at it. She starts winning junior tournaments in Nepal, which there's not a lot of junior tournaments in Nepal.
Right.
And an American writer plays around the golf with her by chance, sees how good she is, sees where she lives. He connects her with a family in California. They like adopt this kid. She flies to California, leaves her family, living on a third floor in a shed.
Wow.
Now she's playing junior golf in Southern California, wins a couple junior tournaments in Southern California.
Wow.
And one of my favorite lines in the documentary, that these Southern California teenage girls, they're standing on a tee waiting to tee off, and they ask her, "What's golf like in Nepal?" Right? And she says, "Well, it's different."
Yeah, for sure.
So it so it turns out she goes to college in Southern California. Uh, Now she runs junior programs in Southern California. So
Oh,
I'll
wow.
have to give you your contact
Yeah, I would
information.
love to have a
Yeah, this
conversation with
might
her.
open doors for both of you.
Yeah, for sure.
And ESPN did a documentary on her. It made me cry.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
mean, from the background she came from to where she is today, it's unbelievable. You know,
Yeah.
uh,
And just think of how many children that are like her around the world that will probably never have that opportunity. But if you give them that opportunity, how much better would their life be? That's that's
right.
what that's what it's really about. It's not a bleeding heart liberal approach. It's like, hey man, just give people a chance. That's all you want is give them the same amount of chance that you have.
And with her, if you give her the opportunity, you get to hang out with her. I mean, she is a really good person.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
she's probably gonna give you more than you're gonna give her. Just
Yeah.
through the type of person she is.
Yeah. I mean, to make it out of that and be where you are now, that just shows you like her determination and her will.
Right. But that's my experience. That's been the roadblock. How do I get these low income kids onto a golf course on a consistent basis?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm thinking maybe there's cheaper ways of running golf courses, where it doesn't have to be pristine and immaculate. Let's make it a little rougher, but a little cheaper at the same time, so everybody can play, not
So
just.
You said that it's really interesting. There's a location near Corona, which is an old driving range. So we're actually trying to find the owner of this, and it's a beautiful layout. It's just a driving range, but what we had visions were to somehow get control of this driving range, cut it in a quarter, so the right side, and this is just for kids. It's only going to be a junior driving range, so the kids can have their classes on the right side of the range, so they can hit golf balls and work on stuff and short game. And the three quarters on the left, turn that into a 9-hole pitch and putt, and that's going to be their golf course. So we just have kids running through there all the time. It doesn't cost them anything. They'll just be a part of the membership. Keep the memberships very low where these kids can go out there and actually play someplace. And it's just a 9-hole pitch and putt. The kids don't need that long of a golf course, and just find ways to make it interesting. Put ponds in the way, bunkers, so you make them have to hit narrow fairways or whatever you want to do. But I think that might be an opportunity too, is to see these old driving ranges that are shut down, just turn the driving range into a golf course.
So maybe somebody's already thought of this already, but what I'm thinking is putting greens are expensive.
Oh yeah.
Bunkers, bunkers to maintain a bunker is expensive.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So let's say you took the putting green out of it and you're just hitting to a location, no putting. Whoever gets to the location first wins the hole.
Yep.
Let the bunkers, hey, play the balls alive, man.
Right.
There's no raking these things or making them manicured.
Right.
That would so drastically cut the cost of operating a golf course. That might be the way that I don't know, because
Yeah.
there's plenty of land out there to build something like that. It'd be pretty easy.
Yeah, for sure. You just have to find the landowners and convince them. Because I guess this family owns like half of Corona. And at one point, they decided to invest in this driving range, but it's been closed for, I don't know, 20 years or something ridiculous.
Right,
It's got grass growing over it. It's just a waste of space. But
right.
all the stuff is there. You can see where the putting green were. You can see the clubhouse where it was. Obviously, there's trees growing through it now, but it's still there. The bones are there. So we're trying to
Right.
find out who owns it and approach them.
The course I grew up on Long Island, it was a Tillinghast design golf course,
Mm,
and the developer bought it and shut it down. So it's
mm.
been shut down for 10 years. And the community won't let him develop the way he wants to develop the land. So they're fighting. So the
Yeah.
golf course, a Tillinghast design golf course, is just
Oh,
sitting.
oh man.
And what the guy did was even worse. He cut all the greens and took the grass away from the greens.
Oh man.
So all there are is dirt patches where the greens used to be.
Oh.
But I'm thinking with my idea, just hit to the green, the hole's over. You don't have to putt.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. But man,
But
the Tillinghast just left out to die. That's like the Mona Lisa painting eyebrows on
yeah,
it.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And like you're saying in South Africa, they're teaching them what besides golf, what's the other two things they're teaching them?
Art and dance.
So I was thinking because I keep in touch with the people back on Long Island in this community, they could turn this whole operation into a community cultural center. Golf,
Yeah.
theater, tennis, pickleball. Could be a huge operation
Yeah, for
rather than
sure.
this stupid housing project that you've been to Long Island. They don't need another housing
No,
project.
they don't.
But anyway, we're kicking ideas around. Who knows what'll happen?
Who knows? We'll probably both get in trouble with the peach anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story.
Uh,
Well, even with you, I'm thinking they could give you money. Hey, Tony, we're going to give you X amount of dollars, invest it, see what you can do with it. Maybe they'll give you a low interest rate, or maybe
Yeah,
don't even
something.
bother. Maybe don't even bother paying us back, Tony. But we know you
Yeah,
grow the game.
right.
Rather than try to come up with these national programs that isn't going to work for Augusta National because it's not going to work for the local muni. It's got to, you can't make a program that's going to work for everybody.
Yeah, you've got to reach out to people that have already established a program that works in the community and just support that
Right,
program and just let that
right,
program flourish because the work's already been done.
right. Invest in the local programs. Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. All right, Tony, this has been fun.
Yeah, Leo, I
Like you
appreciate
said,
it.
we better get off before we get in too deep here.
My inbox is gonna be full when I get off.
But it was nice meeting you. Best of luck in the future. I'm going to give you Pratima's contact information, and who knows where that'll go because she's a really good person, really
Yeah,
good
that'd
person.
be great to have a sit down with her. I appreciate it. I appreciate all you do as well, Leo.
Thanks, appreciate that. Have a good night and get some rest and go at it tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy wife, happy life, right? So I gotta take care of that.
All the best to you, Tony.
All right, thanks, Leo.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.